All right, I touched it up with some high performance paint, and rightfully so, high performance. I put a couple coats on there. First, I put a nice silver high performance, I primed it, and then a nice silver high performance coating, and then finished it off with a black, so that way I can make sure that every part of this was hit, and it's got a nice little gloss to it, as you can see right there. But nice, it serves the purpose. High performance, baby. Okay, it's been a good few days. I'm a little tired, exhausted. It is time to wrap it up. But for the most part, I made some pretty good progress over the weekend. I had 3 days off this weekend. The past few weekends, I had to work mandatory overtime, so I did not get as much accomplished as I wanted to. So therefore, this weekend, I stormed it with everything that I could in whatever little time I could squeeze in, as well as cutting the grass. But anyway, I made some good progress. I wanted to get most of the accessories bolted on the engine, the belt-driven accessories, and that includes the AC compressor, the alternator, the brackets, and some of the hoses. So this worked out really good. This alternator is a 190 amp alternator, a lot bigger than the original one. The original alternator comes with this vehicle was 140 amp. The bolt from this alternator, in the original application, the alternator is positioned down a lot lower. So in this application, the only part that it would fit is upward placement. The bolts are so long, these upper and lower bolts are so long, this long bottom bolt would hit the frame rail, so it was not room to get in it. So I had to modify my bracket in order to be able to just lift up the alternator. I put a slot in the bracket, it'll fit in the slot, and then slide the bolt all the way across. So that worked out excellent. Upper belt tensioner, this is utilized on the Cayennes, the Audi Q7s, and the Porsche also. So that worked out good. So my next thing would be to check the belt fitment. Hopefully with the factory Audi TT belt for the 3.2s, it'll utilize all these pulleys without having to worry about modification for fitment of a power steering pump. And that is what this bracket was mainly primarily set up for, to use power steering pump on those vehicles, the SUVs. Another thing that worked out was, this is from off of Audi Q7 for the AC compressor, and the bracket Touareg. So our AC lines worked out great. They mounted up. Had to do, as you can see, how it's christening crossing. These worked out great. They fit in and bolt in a great position. This fits great. We can still run our AC compressor. Our plug is right here for it. So that worked out great. I'll have to double check the fitment for the upper line right here, but the main thing is our primary hoses fit. If this hose did not fit right here, as you can see, this goes up along, comes here, goes up, and runs all the way back through. So that's a tricky hose to even try to worry about replacement, let alone all the factory kinks and bends that hose just running and the way it's rerouted. So that works out excellent for us. Next little challenge was the setup for the coolant flow. The factory Q7s, they have a hose right here that comes out of here, and that hose actually fed coolant through to the inlet as well as the return. So it fed coolant through here and came out of here and went up into a T-fitting. I'm sorry, no. It came out of the block, as this does. That's why the hose fits perfectly. Feeds in here, out of here, and it went to a T that went back into here. So one of the things that I'm thinking about, but either way, I'm brainstorming while I'm speaking, so my brain needs to give it a chance to relax, cool off, grab some greater thoughts. So this worked out excellent. Next challenge, our auxiliary water pump. Now this, I have this mounted. I wanted to get it into a original position somewhere close to the factory one for the 3.2 liter block. I managed to fabricate, I used a strap to strap it to this line right here, as well as I fabricated a bracket, a lower bracket that comes from here and bolts to this part right here. So that's why I still have the hardware in place. The bracket, I painted it so it's drying. That turned out nice. I'm running the Passat lines also. So most of the hoses and everything I'm gonna try to utilize is from the Passat 3.6 liter. So if we ever need to replace any hoses, we can just replace with the factory 3.6 liter per side hoses, which is nice. We don't have to modify or worry about cutting hoses, slicing hoses. If you have a hose blow, get a factory hose. This will still fit into the factory location. Instead of using a compressed spring clamp, I'm gonna use a screw clamp to compress this very tight, and just that way it'll secure on here. I don't want to take a chance. I will see how the spring clamp fits. If the spring clamp fits nice and tight and this hose can't blow off, then I will use that. If it doesn't, if it's a little loose and snug, then I'll just put a heavy duty clamp on here just to secure the hose. But the best thing about it is we're able to use a factory hose here, bolted in position, and it has a little of the heat shielding on here also, just to protect from being run up near the AC compressor hoses and piping. So that works out good. Our electrical connectors are really close together, so our factory wiring will bolt those into position, and that turned out good for the most part. So I wanted to get, and this was original hose. So for example, the hoses on the 3.2 was a little short. As you can see right here, that Passat hose is a little bit longer, and I like the offset angle from the original Passat hose, so that worked out good. Next thing is hook up the rest of my wiring that connected and plugged into the lower positions. Connect my sensors, run my tube and my plumbing and everything up here for my heat exchanger, and see what type of lines I may have to change or reroute for the turbo. And once I get all that in position, start the fabrication for my exhaust manifold for mounting my turbocharger. So I wanted to get all of my electrical hoses, my electrical accessories, as well as my hoses into position first before fabricating. Of course, a lot of people start fabricating first. Then when you go to run your wires and connections, you're like, oh my God, this is in the way. That's it. No, you do everything to get everything back into its factory location, its original location, and then you start your fabrication. If this was a race car application, strictly race car, then it's different. Gut everything out and just start fabricating your plumbing and your turbo like a lot of shops do. But as far as this ongoing daily driven vehicle, as well as being used for the track, you have to make sure you still have all your accessories. This air conditioner also is larger than the factory air conditioner, so it will get a lot cooler in the car. The way the water pump is mounted, this lower hose right here will feed right into a tube that goes up for our heat exchanger and flows around for the connection for our heater coil inside the vehicle. So overall, we made some good progress. Some of the things I will have to modify would be the upper injectors, these 3 injectors right here for cylinders 1, 3, and 5. I will have to notch out this sleeve, this rim right here, so that way I can counterclock the injector plugs. If I went to rotate clockwise, it's not enough room because it would run into the mounting positions for the fill rail. So I have to counterclock, notch this out, counterclock the connectors, so that way it will clear my staged injectors that comes from this fill rail, and I will still have the provisions for my electrical connections and running the direct injector fill rail. So when this was designed, he only had provisions for people to run these injectors right here, not the factory direct injectors. And then he came up with another manifold that runs stage injectors, because I pretty much gave him that idea of running the stage injectors, and he made me a 3.2 liter intake manifold as well that has dual stage injectors. So once he did that, the next thing I know, he popped out one for the 3.6. So as Pop says, you got to be careful who you share your ideas with. But that one, I wasn't worried about giving up that one too much, because hey, it's a lot of companies that's out here doing stage injections. It was a matter of time before he came up with the idea, or somebody else say, hey dude, we need stage injectors to get a lot of extra fill in there. We went back and forth through an email, and finally he understood what I meant, and then he fabricated, sent one out, and then hence he sells them online. So here we're utilizing our direct injectors for several reasons. better fuel atomization inside the combustion chamber, more torque, more power, and then we'll have our secondary injectors kick in. One of the things that I would like to track down eventually would be high flow injectors that would fit into these ports for the extended ones for 1, 3, and 5. 2, 4, 6 is not a problem because they are short nozzle injectors. Well, they're still a little bit long, but they're shorter injectors, which probably is somewhat similar or close to the ones that come into the typical direct injected VW Audi Group engine. But the long ones, those are the ones I need to figure out and find something that can flow good, and then that will take us to a whole nother level. If I can find some direct injectors, and then of course match them with these, some direct injectors that will flow upward of 500 horsepower, 5 to 600 horsepower, that would be awesome. At least that 5 to 600 horsepower. Of course, the more the better, but something that's good, 5 to 6, that'll give nice performance, nice drivability all around, under boost, and then when you start cranking up the power, our secondary stage injectors kick in. So that'll be it for the night. Other things on the to-do list, I will probably get an oil filter housing. That's the DQ 500 transmission oil filter housing. Get an aluminum one with the option for running a sensor for measuring your oil pressure as well as your oil temperature. We'll run a display for the dash also, so therefore when we're staging up at the light, we're racing people, we can monitor our transmission temperatures in real time and see if it's climbing while we're on the anti-lag. So that's it for the night. Packed up the tent, time to eat real quick, go to sleep, because Sundays are my busiest days of the week. If I have enough rest throughout the week, I'll come back out here and slowly just take an hour or two every day after I get off, or whatever days I have that extra energy, and start hooking up some of my electrical connections, finish rerouting my hoses and up here, and then get closer to the point where I can start fabricating the plumbing for my exhaust manifold. So that will be my primary objective. If everything else works out fine for that week. Also, I put a lot of pressure on Verkline, sending them emails back and forth to get our subframe. So it was supposed to be shipped out Friday, and then suddenly I got an email back that's saying a lot of people in the shop are sick, because I put more pressure, like, dude, what's up? We need our subframe. I have to start measuring for our front axles. So putting the pressure on them. So of course, a lot of shops are just slow. It's just crazy. I was listening to someone this week talking about pistons, and he said, I don't care who you are, how popular, how famous you are, it takes time to get pistons and extra parts. So that's why a lot of people are stocking up on extra hardware and extra parts. Packing the tent up, tricks that I learned from when I pack the tent up with my car. I usually put the moving blankets on the side, so as the tent is compressing, that way it doesn't make physical contact where it could probably scuff the fenders or anything. So as you can see, moving blankets on both sides. That's the way to do it when you're by yourself and you do not want your tent to touch any part of your car. I learned the hard way by mistake one time, having my hatchback up and went to let the tent down, and one of these cross members right here scratched the back of my hatchback, and I was like, what the F? Wasn't too happy about that. So lessons learned.